I grew up in a home where I'd watch my dad beat the shit out of my mom, and then we would be fine the next day and nobody would talk about it.
And I grew up having to over-explain everything, always having to talk about something, but I didn't want to talk about it, right? So you have those two cultures. Knock
down, drag out bras. The family, happy family in the next day. And so that's where I'm like, oh, absolutely. No, not. So when it came to breaking the generational curse from my family, that's where, hey, we got a problem. We're going to address this. We're not going to bed angry. We're going to see how do we get to the bottom, the root of this, and how do we address it? How do we move forward? And I think that's been a really key part of our family is addressing these, not in an angry, mad way, but if, you know, I mess up, girls, whoever messes up, hey, okay, come on in, sit down. What happened? Let's talk this through and just see where we're at with this. And that's helped a lot. But when it comes back to running a home that's fair and just, it's hard. It's really hard to do because especially me as the father in this home and running the house how I want it run with my rules and things. And obviously yours as well is not just, you know, me setting it. But if I'm like, hey, I want you home at this time. This is just an example I'll use for people listening. Hey, I want you home at 10 o'clock. She knows by who I am as her dad and how I run my home, 10 o'clock means 10 o'clock. That's not 10:05. That's not 10:30.
If it's 10, you're late.
If it's 10, you're late in our home. But at the same time, she knows, hey, Dad, I'm a few minutes late. I'm a little bit behind. I'm just giving you the heads up. Perfect. No problem, kid. It's not, the 10 o'clock isn't the problem. It's the rule of running a fair, just home. It's the principle of having that rule. But we're not setting this rule that if that's it or nothing. She knows that, hey, Dad, everybody's staying a little bit later. Can I get an extra hour? Absolutely. Have I ever said no? No. So I've never, every time she's not calling every single time. But if she's late, hey, guess what? Now I need you home by 9:30. Just because your kids have to know, if you have this rule in your home, that it's set for a reason. And there's especially from my point of view is traveling the world, seeing what's out there. I want my kids, when I tell them to do something, they're doing it. They're not questioning it in the fact of like hesitating. Obviously, we talked a little bit earlier about, you know, asking questions, but hey, I need you to do this now. Get it done. Boom. They're on it. Hey, I don't need you to do this. This is how things are going to move forward. And then obviously, I'm trying to think of other examples. You probably have some good ones. But when it comes to running a house that's fair and just, even though they're little rules and they might be little for you, it's letting your children know this is set for a reason. And this is why. And so when that rule is broken, that's when there's repercussion. Not in this huge negative way, but they need to know, hey, Dad, when Dad says this is when it's going to be. But they have all the freedom in the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain that.
It comes down to there's going to be authority in life.
Yes.
So if you sit and you go, hey, question authority, right? You have the radical side of it. But if it comes down to, okay, and this goes into, we could talk about how great our kids are and how we do it, but the truth is you have to die to yourself in order to lead anybody, whether it's your kids, a group of people that depend on you. This all stems, the best part about every story all stems from faith. There's always a root of faith. It rings truth. And in order to lead anybody, you have to die to yourself. In order to be first, you must be last, right? So my whole thing is, we didn't just become these, we pump out these great kids. It literally took versions of us healing shit that we were like, hey, this is not normal, right? In order to raise children. And I think a lot of listeners forget that. We listen to the Mel Robbins, we listen to all these little TikToks, and we get all this great little parenting advice. We're like, oh yeah, we're going to instill that. But they never do. We never do. The truth comes from you. How your children are being raised stems from you. And there was a point in time where you didn't like all that shit in the front yard. And that's the truth. And I think that's where a lot of people need to hear the versions that we always talk about.
Oh, I'd get irritated.
That you had to die to. And that stems from that generational curses of a lot of dads. It comes through that control thing, like, they're not listening. I hate coming home to a dirty house. I hate and they bottle it in, and then it comes out in other shit. And you and I both had to literally kill versions of each other, not only to make our marriage stronger, but you cannot raise successful kids in the same home. Let me preface, unequally yoked and different parenting styles. I don't care who you are.
It'll never work.
Challenge me, leave a comment, whatever. It's the truth. I've lived it on the other side as being from a divorce home. I had a dad, pick me up once a week, see me every other weekends. And then when I was a teenager, moved in with him, I had all the rope in the world to hang myself with. And then, living with my mom, I had a lot of restrictions there, just completely different everything. And so am I going to bring that into our marriage and unload that? This is how we're going to raise our kids? I went through some messed up stuff and made a lot of bad choices. And here you came from Christian home, mom was stay at home, everything's hunky dory, but no one knows what's going behind closed doors there. Are you going to bring that into this marriage? And I think a lot of these parents that are listening and thinking, they're like, holy shit, they haven't healed that form of them as a child, and it's coming out into their kids.
Absolutely.
It's true.
The version of my dad used to come out in the girls with the anger, everything, the irritability, I need to, just all that shit. And then once it came to really processing how I was not raised, but more watched, and then obviously my influence, and then into my teen years, and then that's what I really realized. I'm like, God, what? Like, yeah, my dad was a great dad growing up. They did their best. My parents did their best, but for me, it wasn't good enough, especially in my teen years. And I look back at it now, and I'm like, I want nothing to be anything how my parents were, especially me as a teenager and young adult. That's where I want to 100% break that generational curse. It's like, well, this is how I have so many men that reach out to me. Well, this, man, I don't know what it is with my anger. I'm so much like my dad. And there it is. There's the root of all evil.
Yeah.
Is if you're acting like your parents, but you don't have a relationship with your parents, how does that not trigger you to wake up and go, yeah, I should probably rethink of how my parenting skills are. And that's what it took me.